Jai Jagadish. Jaya Nrsimhadev, 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 Jaya Nrsimhadev. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai, Jai, Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namastute Apta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Atita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Sri Nrsimhadev Chaturdasi festival. The whole wonderful day of Krishna conscious celebration lined up, and I'm sure you'll participate and enjoy it thoroughly. So today I wanted to talk about the glories of Prahlad Maharaj. So first maybe we'll just talk about why we are talking about the glories of Prahlad Maharaj on the appearance day of Lord Nrsimhadev. Of course, the glorification of the servant is the glorification of the master. There's no separation between the two of them. And also in Srimad Bhagavatam it says, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport for 10.169, glorifying the Lord and glorifying the devotees are the same. Or rather, glorifying the devotee is more important than glorifying the Lord directly. So, also, unlike many of the other pastimes of the Lord, for the pastimes of Sri Nrsimhadev, the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev and his presence is very short, right? Everything is in the build-up, the atrocities of Hiranyakashipu, etc. And the real hero comes out to be Prahlad Maharaj. Even when the demigods were offering praise to the Lord to help them, with the atrocities of Prahlad Maharaj, and the Lord as the voice that came through, and he said, I will appear when he harasses my devotee Prahlad. So that was always the impetus for the Lord to appear. So although he was committing all those atrocities, the main thing, or you could say the straw that broke the camel's back, is when he harasses Prahlad. And then also, if you consider Bhagavatam, the 10 subject matters that are described, in Srimad Bhagavatam, we find that you get Sarga, Visarga, etc. And Ashraya is the final subject matter. And Ashraya means shelter, the supreme shelter, who is the supreme personality of Godhead. So Krishna is the supreme shelter. That's the main subject matter also of Bhagavad Gita, of Srimad Bhagavatam. But when it comes to bhakti or devotion, Krishna is not the shelter. The devotee is the shelter of bhakti. Krishna is the object of bhakti. The object of our devotion is Krishna. He is not the shelter of devotion. So therefore, when it comes to bhakti or devotional service, the devotee is the reservoir of bhakti. And therefore, to understand devotional service and to understand the mood of service of the devotee is very important for us. It's very important as practitioners of bhakti to understand what bhakti is, and by understanding the mood and the heart and the sentiments of the devotees, we can learn to develop and hopefully develop and crave and want to develop such a thing, such a sentiments ourselves by getting that kind of glimpse. And therefore, we thought let's talk about Prahlada Maharaj today. Srimad Bhagavatam 9.464 says, and this is also quoted from Brihad Bhagavatamrita. I thought today I'll speak from Brihad Bhagavatamrita. There's lots of Brihad Bhagavatamrita is written by Sanatana Goswami and commented on by him also. There's so much of nectar there, but we will most probably only go through some of it. And if we have some time, we'll read from Srimad Bhagavatam also, the pastimes and the glories of Prahlada Maharaj, as described by Narad Muni. So, Srimad Bhagavatam says, O best of the Brahmanas, without saintly persons for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss or my supreme opulences. This is the Lord speaking. He's saying, without the saintly persons, I have no desire to enjoy anything, essentially. So, the devotees are very, very, very important to the Lord. For the Lord, that is the substance of everything, the devotees and their devotion. And text 65 says, since pure devotees give up their homes, wives, children, relatives, riches, and even their lives simply to serve me, without any desire for material improvement in this life or in the next, how can I give up such devotees at any time? So the Lord very, very strongly has an attachment to the pure devotees. And in text 68, the same chapter, he says, the pure devotee is always within the core of my heart, and I am always in the heart of the pure devotee. My devotees do not know anything else but me, and I do not know anything else but them. So this is the position of the pure devotees. And when we come to Sri Prahlada Maharaj, in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, very wonderful description is given. And there's from chapter 3, we'll read from chapter 3 and chapter 4 a little bit. And chapter 3 says, among those countless devotees, Prahlad stands out as the example of perfection. The Lord himself has described him in this way. Prahlad's good fortune is inconceivable. So the Lord is describing Prahlada Maharaj as the perfection, as a perfect example of a pure devotee. And he stands out even amongst the pure devotees. And further they say, and it's also quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam, those who follow your example, talking to Prahlada Maharaj. This is actually Lord Nrsimha Dev talking to Prahlada Maharaj. Those who follow your example will naturally become my pure devotees. You are the best example of my devotee, and others should follow in your footsteps. So Prahlada Maharaj is the best example. The Lord is saying, and if we follow his example, anyone follows his example, they will become pure devotees. That is the exalted position of Prahlada Maharaj. Also, Narad Muni has a very important role to play in all our scriptures, in all our teachings, in all the pastimes of the Lord. We see him coming up over and over again. And then in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, what's the context there? Is that Narad Muni is trying to understand who is the best devotee. That's what he's trying to do. And he sees a devotee, he appreciates him, he approaches him, wow, you must be the best devotee. That devotee says, actually, I am nothing, this devotee is the best devotee. And Narad Muni goes to that person in his quest. And the part that we are reading from is where Narad Muni is approaching Lord Shiva as the best devotee, and Lord Shiva will say, actually, Prahlad Maharaj is the best devotee. And then Narad Muni will go to Prahlad Maharaj. So Narad Muni plays an important part there in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And then Narad Muni also, in the pastime of Lord Nrsimha they have described in Bhagavatam, Narad Muni is actually talking to Yudhishthir Maharaj. So we know in Bhagavatam we got Parikshit Maharaj questioning Sukadev Goswami. Sukadev Goswami is reciting, and he's relating other conversations. And the conversation he's relating is between Narad Muni and Yudhishthir Maharaj. And the whole seventh canto, or the bulk of the seventh canto, is a pastime of Lord Nrsimhadev's appearance and Hiranyakashipu's atrocities. In that pastime, Narad Muni is talking to Yudhishthir Maharaj and describes the entire thing. And Narad Muni's other position is also important for Prahlad Maharaj, because Prahlad Maharaj is a 5-year-old boy, right? And he's teaching his friends about devotional service as he heard from his spiritual master. So the only spiritual master his friends know are the teachers, Sanda and Amarka from the school, who are teaching politics, economics, and other material sciences. But actually, Narad Muni is Prahlad's spiritual master also. Narad Muni is a spiritual master. When Hiranyakashipu went to perform his austerities and get all his power to prepare himself, because when, of course, Hiranyaksha, his brother, was killed by Lord Varahadev, Hiranyakashipu, of course, became very angry. And he realized that in order to take revenge and defeat Vishnu, he has to prepare himself. So he went to perform austerities and to get more power. And that's where he sought the blessings of Lord Brahma for those boons, etc. But when he was gone, the demigods took advantage to try to capture his wife, because they felt that the child in her womb would be a great demon also. So the demigods tried to capture his wife, and then they wanted to take her away and then kill the demon who was born. But Narad Muni, again, as usual, intervened. He knew that there was a great devotee appearing in her womb. And so her name was Kayadu. He stopped the demigods from taking them away, and he took Kayadu to his ashram, and he spoke to her, Srimad Bhagavatam, and he taught her. He actually taught Prahlad through her, because he was still in the womb. And of course, Prahlad says he remembered everything, but his mother used to fall off to sleep, etc., so she didn't recall everything that was taught. But he learnt. So Narad Muni is actually the spiritual master of Prahlad Maharaj also. And in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, we're going to see Narad Muni glorifying Prahlad. In Bhagavatam, we see Narad Muni glorifying Prahlad. So it's quite normal that the disciple glorifies the spiritual master. That's the usual thing that happens. It's not an unusual thing. But to hear the spiritual master glorifying the disciple, like Narad Muni describes Prahlad Maharaj, is very unusual. It's an outstanding, unusual situation. But yet it's happening. And that's what we'll read from a little more. So I'll just read some of the verses from Brihad Bhagavatamrita and kind of summarize some of the commentary. The commentary of Brihad Bhagavatamrita is written by Sanatana Goswami, and he also gave the commentary, which is also an unusual thing. He wrote the book and commented on it himself. But of course, he gave very elaborate commentaries, very intelligent, with such deep insight. So we'll just kind of summarize it, unfortunately, because we won't have time. But if you do get a chance, it's wonderful to read Brihad Bhagavatamrita, especially relating to Prahlad Maharaj on this day, from the late parts of chapter 3 to chapter 4. So in 381, when Lord Shiva is now glorifying Prahlad, because what Lord Shiva is saying, I'm not actually the best devotee. The person you should go to is Prahlad. And these are the reasons he gives to Narad Muni why you should go to Prahlad. In 381 he says, Lord Vishnu several times tried to offer him boons, but Prahlad refused to ask to be liberated. Instead, he chose only pure devotion. I bow down before him. So this is one symptom of Prahlad Maharaj. When Lord Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu, he offered him boons. Whatever you want, ask. And Prahlad kept refusing. He said, no, I just want pure devotion. That's the amazing symptom of Prahlad. And that's the glorification that Lord Shiva says. Yeah, that makes him unusual. He didn't even want liberation. He just wanted pure devotional service to the Lord. And we know, theoretically we hear that's what we should desire. But here we see Prahlad in action. This is what he wants. And that's why he's such a wonderful example to us. Text 82 and 83. My dear sage, Bali violated spiritual etiquette by disobeying the order of the spiritual master and failing to be true to his own words. Still, as we know, the Lord agreed to become the guard at Bali's door. Was that simply the fruit of Bali's insignificant charity? The Lord also granted protection to the wicked Bana. Was that the result of my offering the Lord's prayers? So there's a lot behind this comment, this statement from Lord Shiva. Bali Maharaj, if you remember the past time, Lord Vamana Dev, dwarf incarnation of the Lord, approached for 3 steps of land, and Bali Maharaj, said, "You're not intelligent, only asking that for me as a Brahmin." And then he took 2 steps, covered everything, and then offered himself. And we understand that Bali Maharaj was then, granted. He was granted the abode of Sutala and the Lord as his door, as his gatekeeper of the planet. So now Lord Shiva is questioning that. He says, what did Bali Maharaj actually do? He made 3 mistakes. He says, firstly, he overturned the order of the universe. What Bali Maharaj did is, the demigods reside in the higher planets, the demons in the lower planets. The demigods are in charge of the heavenly planets, and the demons are in charge of the hellish planets. Bali Maharaj, he took over the heavenly planets, and he installed the demons there. So firstly, he upset the natural order created by Lord Brahma. That's an offense, because that order is created by the Lord. It's done on the desire of the Lord. Secondly, he disobeyed the order of his spiritual master. When Vamanadev came to beg charity, his spiritual master said, don't. But he disobeyed the spiritual master. And thirdly, he promised 3 steps of land, but he couldn't give 3 steps of land. He only could give 2, right? And then he offered his body. So he just essentially offered charity. And he said, so merely by giving the charity, yet he created so much of upheaval, would he get the benefit of having the Lord stand as his gatekeeper and the abode of Sutala Loka? Lord Shiva is doubtful about that. This is what Sanatana Goswami is explaining in his commentary. He said that 3 insignificant worlds, material worlds, is nothing for the Lord. And then all the offenses he created, what it is that because Bali is the grandson of Prahlad, that's the reason he was favored by Vamana Dev, so that he could get that abode and the Lord would be the gatekeeper. So that is the understanding that Lord Shiva is presenting here. And then Sanatana Goswami further says, if someone argues that maybe Prahlad Maharaj gave Bali pure devotion and that's why he got that boon. What if someone argues that? Because that was his grandson. Then this other statement that Lord Shiva makes in this verse, which says, was that simply the Lord also granted protection to the wicked Bana. Was that the result of my offering prayers? So the little background to Banasura is that Banasura was a very wicked demon. He had 1,000 arms, and once he pleased Lord Shiva. When Lord Shiva was doing his Tandava Nritya dance, with his 1,000 arms he played, they said 500 drums, maybe 2 arms per drum. He played 500 drums and pleased Lord Shiva, who offered him a benediction. And he requested that his city be protected by Lord Shiva, that he always be protected by Lord Shiva. But then he became powerful and arrogant, and he went on creating havoc, disturbing the natural order, the Brahmins, the Vaishnavas, the cows. He created a lot of disturbance. But Lord Shiva couldn't act because he promised to protect him. Actually, he got so arrogant that he said, my 1,000 arms are itching for a fight and I can't find a worthy opponent. So he approached Lord Shiva to fight. And Lord Shiva became very angry that, I gave you this benediction and you're approaching me to fight. And he said, don't worry, someone will be born who will be able to kill you. And Banasura became happy that he'll get a match. So in that way, Banasura was, very wicked. And he had a daughter called Usha. And Usha had a dream about Aniruddha, Krishna's grandson. Right? And she became attracted to him and she asked one of her friends, Chitralekha, who had mystic powers. She told her friend about this dream, and her friend with mystic powers went and brought Aniruddha to her room in his sleep without him knowing. When Aniruddha woke up, he was in her quarters. And not like he ran away, he stayed there for a long time, enjoyed her association. And of course, he was missing from Dwarka. And then news came to Banasura that your daughter has a companion in her quarters. He became very angry. He went there. When he saw Aniruddha, he realized this is a worthy husband for my daughter, but because of the way he came, incognito, it would be an embarrassment to the family. So therefore, he captured Aniruddha. And then Narad Muni again comes in and intervenes. He goes to Krishna. They're looking for Aniruddha, who's disappeared for a long time. Tells Lord Krishna that actually Aniruddha has been captured by Banasura. And then Krishna takes his army and there's a great battle. Krishna cuts off all Banasura's arms except 4. Banasura retreats. Banasura asked Lord Shiva to protect him also because that commitment was given by Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva had to fight against Krishna in that battle. But eventually, they retreated and Banasura regrouped and came back to attack Krishna. And then eventually Krishna was going to kill Banasura. And Lord Shiva appealed to Krishna to say, please, I gave him my word that I will protect him. And if you kill him, my promise will be broken. And then Krishna said, actually, because he is the great grandson of Prahlada, I will not do anything to him. So, of course, Banasura, I don't know if I mentioned, is the great grandson of Prahlada also. So therefore, Banasura wasn't killed, and that's what Lord Shiva is referring to you. Was that the result of my offering prayers that he granted protection to the wicked Bana? So then again we see that everything that the Lord is doing is shaped by his affection for Prahlada. And that's what Lord Shiva is saying here. It wasn't really my prayers that protected Banasura. It was actually his affection for Prahlada. So, at least, actually Banasura is considered worse than Bali Maharaj because Banasura, at least Bali Maharaj surrendered to the Lord, when he offered his body. Banasura was wicked and he just wanted to fight and fight, but still the Lord granted him protection. So, that is the background of that verse. Brihad Bhagavatamrita 384. No, in both cases the Lord acted out of affection for Prahlada, his most beloved devotee. But what more can I say in the presence of Gauri, the close friend of goddess Lakshmi? So Gauri is Parvati, the consort of Lord Shiva. She's obviously a close friend of Lakshmi Devi. Prior to this, Lord Shiva was glorifying how Prahlada is the best amongst the devotees. I think maybe we'll talk about that a little more. But he said that Prahlada is more dear to the Lord even than Garuda, even than Sankarshan, even than Lakshmi. Right? And now we might question that. These are eternal associates of the Lord. Prahlada is actually a 5-year-old boy. He's the equivalent of the new Bhakta who joined yesterday in the temple. Right? We have a new Bhakta who joined yesterday, and that's Prahlada, this new boy who just came in. And now Lord Shiva is saying he's better than the eternal associates of the Lord. Sankarshan, Lakshmi Devi who resides in the chest of the Lord. He's better than, all these great devotees. Better than Lord Brahma, better than Lord Shiva, the Mahajans. And because he's saying that he's better than Lakshmi Devi and his wife is a close friend, Lord Shiva is saying if he carries on describing too much more, then he might go into ecstasy, speak too loudly, his wife will hear and become a little upset that, you're saying he's better than Lakshmi. So even Lord Shiva has to do that. Be careful what he says in front of his wife. So he said, I won't say any more. So he stopped speaking about that at that point. Shri Radha Radhanath, Giri Govardhan, Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Shri Prabhupada. So that's the unique position of Prahlad. He's a very recent devotee, and yet he's considered more elevated, or more, the Lord has more affection for him, even though he's so new. And when the Lord speaks to his associates in explaining this, Sanatana Goswami analyzes, he says the two reasons why these devotees are more dear to the Lord than his eternal associates. One is they underwent tribulations and they sacrificed all comforts. So that's the reason he gives, that they sacrificed so much of comfort and all these things, and they went through so much of tribulation, and therefore the Lord is grateful. And the other reason is that he wants to encourage all devotees to surrender themselves more fully to accomplish what, and therefore he emphatically praises Prahlad for that purpose. So we see Prahlad as being very, very dear to the Lord. In chapter 4 of Brihad Bhagavatamrita, text 1, I'll just read more quickly maybe, otherwise we'll totally run out of time. Sri Parikshit said, after the sage Narad heard Lord Shiva's words, which impressed him as most amazing, he was eager to see Prahlad in person. He at once therefore travelled to Sri Sutala by the path of the heart and entered running into the city of demons. So Sutala is a city of demons, and Narad Muni went there. Another warning that Lord Shiva gave him at that time is, when you go to Sutala Loka, two things you mustn't do. Don't offer obeisances to Prahlad, and don't praise him, because he will get very upset. He doesn't like that. Another quality of Prahlad we see. So that warning was given. Text 2. Prahlad, the best of the Vaishnavas, was in a secluded place, absorbed in loving meditation on the Supreme Lord's lotus feet. Seeing the Brahmana Narad approaching from a distance, Prahlad quickly stood up and then offered prostrated obeisances as Narad came close. So although he was in deep meditation, he was still conscious that Narad was coming. That was his level of consciousness. With some effort, text 3, with some effort, Prahlad induced Narad to accept a seat and then began, like others before, to worship him in accordance with standard rules. But Narad, feeling great reverence for Prahlad, refused the worship. He shed tears of joy and tried to embrace Prahlad. Then he spoke as follows. So Prahlad, because his spiritual master Narad Muni is coming, he naturally did that. But it was difficult because it was hard to get Narad Muni to accept that worship, because Narad Muni himself spontaneously wanted to, didn't want to accept that seat. And Narad Muni essentially just stopped him, Sanatana Goswami says, because of his natural desire to speak and express what he felt. Narad Muni says, Sri Narad said, now, after so long, I have finally seen you, the true recipient of Krishna's full mercy. Now my efforts have borne fruit. From your very childhood, you have been endowed with pure devotion for Krishna. Such spontaneous love has never been seen anywhere before. Text 5. By virtue of that pure devotion, you overcame terrible obstacles, the thousands of outrages your father committed against you. And by your influence, all the demons became Vaishnavas. So that's Narad Muni's glorification of his disciple, Prahlad. That you overcame these obstacles, from birth you had pure devotion to Krishna. And it's not like when Prahlad Maharaj was going through these tribulations, it's not like he was saying, oh Lord, please protect me. Like if we go through some tribulation, we hope we'll think of Lord Nrsimha, we pray. But then even if we do think of the Lord, we'll think, Lord, please protect me. That wasn't Prahlad. He was just absorbed in thought of the Lord from his natural attachment to the Lord. He wasn't thinking, protect me or don't protect me. He was just absorbed in that. So therefore, it's not easy to do what Prahlad did. Someone who is very, very elevated can only do such things. He was totally fixed in Bhakti Yoga. Text 6. While immersed in meditation on Krishna, you seem to forget your own existence. Like a madman, you danced and sang and called out loudly, your body trembling. In this way, you spread devotional service unto Lord Vishnu, delivering all the worlds from the cycle of material life and filling them with joy. So, that's Prahlad Maharaj, Mahabhagavat devotee. These symptoms we hear of, and as we spoke earlier, he's a perfect example of all these symptoms. Text 7. When Lord Krishna appeared on the shore of the ocean, he placed you on his lap and caressed you like a mother. Thus he honored you, ignoring Brahma, Shiva, and other demigods offering prayers, and even ignoring the goddess Padma. So, he caressed him. And if you see, imagine the affection he's feeling. He caressed him and placed him on his lap. And he ignored the prayers of Brahma and Shiva. The prayers he ignored was when the Lord appeared very angry. Even after killing Hiranyakashipu, he remained extremely angry. And Lord Brahma prayed to him to please reduce his anger. He was worried that the entire universe may be destroyed, so therefore he did that. But Nrsimhadev just ignored his prayer. Therefore Lord Brahma asked Narada. He actually asked Lakshmi Devi to go even. She wouldn't. They approached the Lord. Nobody wanted to approach the Lord, but when he asked Prahlad, Prahlad just went. So that was the influence that Prahlad had and the effect that Prahlad had on the Lord. Text 8. Brahma, terrified, begged you to approach Sri Nrsimha. And when you fell at the Lord's divine lotus feet, the Lord stood up and raised you from the ground. He put his lotus hand upon your head and began to lick your entire body. Right? We may find it strange if someone licks our body, but the Lord, his upper half was lion form. So when animals the lion expresses affection, it licks. Its cubs, it licks. That's how they express affection. So the Lord, keeping in that mood, he licked Prahlad to show his affection. He placed his lotus hand on his head and he licked it. The bottom half was human form, so he placed his hand and caressed him and expressed affection. And says also, Sanatana Goswami gently rocked back and forth also. You see, like a mother rocks back and forth the baby, Lord gently rocked back and forth. So that's how much affection, despite that extreme anger that he had, that even Lord Brahma couldn't get him to pacify. Just by Prahlad coming, his mood changed so much that everything was forgotten and he had this loving mood. Responding to your love, to your Lord's love, you agreed to assume your father's throne, and as you told Lord Nrsimha in your prayers, by doing this, you wish to help deliver all people. You are still on that royal seat, fixed in meditation on Lord Nrsimha. So, of course, Lord Nrsimha, they have offered many benedictions to Prahlad, and Prahlad refused. He just asked that his father be delivered. And of course, Lord Nrsimha, they've said, already delivered 21 generations of your family. But at Lord Nrsimhadev's insistence, Prahlad Maharaj accepted. He accepted to rule over the kingdom. So someone may question, he refused liberation, but he accepted a kingdom in the material world. That's what Sanatana Goswami is explaining here in this commentary. Why would he do that? Is that not contrary? Shouldn't he have rather just gone back? Did he want to enjoy the material world? And then Sanatana Goswami is explaining, and also said here, he assumed his father's throne to deliver all people. That was the other quality he had, in that he finally acceded to sitting on the throne. And Lord Nrsimhadev guaranteed him, you will not be affected by this material enjoyment. And he intended to use his wealth and the throne to preach and help deliver all people. And he calculated that may satisfy the Lord. So that was Prahlad's desire. And you can see how important that is for us also. We see this devotee who accepted a material position in the material world so that he could preach. So that was his special hankering, another quality of Prahlad which we can aspire to. Sri Parikshit said, unable to tolerate his own praise, Prahlad lowered his face in embarrassment, bowed down before Narad, and respectfully addressed him in a quiet voice. Of course, Narad Muni couldn't contain himself, and he praised Prahlad, even though Lord Shiva warned him not to. So naturally, Prahlad was ashamed, and this is his Diksha Guru. His Guru literally was praising him. So it was a very embarrassing situation for him. So Prahlad, we'll see his humility here when he describes his position. My Lord and spiritual master, please reconsider everything you have said. A young boy simply cannot understand correctly the science of devotional service to Krishna. So he's saying, as a young boy, I didn't know anything. Still, when one receives instructions from great souls, who did he receive from? Narad Muni. So he's glorifying Narad Muni. Those instructions have the power to awaken one higher understanding. And then one can engage in devotional service to Lord Hari. Therefore, it is not a sign of greatness that ordinary persons like me can persevere despite terrible disturbances, give spiritual enlightenment to children, behave like saintly persons, show compassion to suffering souls, or refuse the boon of liberation. So he's saying, it's not great everything that you say I did, because it's by your instruction, by the instruction of great souls, I was able to do this. Text 19. Merely from these symptoms, the best of saints do not conclude that Krishna has given a person his mercy. Krishna's mercy, blessed Narad, appears only, Krishna's mercy, blessed Narad, appears only in a truly worthy servant. So that's what he's implying here, that Narad Muni has the Lord's mercy as a true servant of the Lord. And he says also, I never performed any real service for the Lord like Hanuman. Because what did Prahlad do? He was mainly remembering the Lord. He practiced remembrance. I did that. And he says, devotees like Hanuman, they served the Lord. They just served, engaged all the time in service. And that they are the real devotees. You praise me because he caressed me and showed other signs of affection. But some consider such affectionate behavior merely a false show of Maya, and others just a display of his pastimes. So, just for his pastimes and a display of Maya. And I'll just skip one or two verses. The Lord truly gives his mercy, saintly devotees believe, when he grants the right to render various kinds of service, a blessing he gives to such devotees as Hanuman. Nothing else counts as his mercy. So here he's pointing further to Hanuman. And he says, Lord Nrsimhadev performed his pastimes not to favor me, but to protect the demigods, his devotees, and deliver his two eternal servants, and to uphold the words of Lord Brahma. So basically he's saying, everything Lord Nrsimhadev did was for the greater scheme of the pastimes that he had and the plan he had. Therefore, he didn't, it wasn't the greatest, it wasn't so any greatness on my part. But of course, as a devotee, he realizes he's contradicting his spiritual master now. Because his spiritual master offered him all those words in glorification, and he's countering his spiritual master. So then, he gives up this line of thought, and rather focuses now on glorifying Hanuman, so that he'll deflect attention. So he stops kind of countering Narad Muni's arguments. One other argument he did give before that was he said that when the Lord favors someone, as we hear in the scripture, what does he do? He takes away everything. But I said, in my case, the Lord gave me unlimited opulence. He sat on the throne and he accepted that. And he felt he was very attached and full of false ego because he accepted that. So that's the mood of Prahlad Maharaj when he was in how he felt. Wonderful to get a glimpse into the heart of the devotees that we see. And we see Narad Muni, how he's glorifying him, Prahlad, and how Prahlad is seeing everything. Wonderful, wonderful example. So from what time should I go to? I don't recall what time we started. Normally we stop at 8:30. Is this the time to start? Okay. So I just want to end at this point. I was hoping I could get a chance to read. I'll just read a few verses from Bhagavatam. We'll just hear from Canto 7, Chapter 4. It's just about 7 verses or so. We'll just read them. It's wonderful to just recite them and hear them. These, again, are the glorifications of Prahlad Maharaj, and again they are spoken by Narad Muni. He was completely cultured as a qualified Brahmana, having good character and being determined to understand the absolute truth. He had full control of his senses and mind. Like the super soul, he was kind to every living entity and was the best friend of everyone. To respectable persons, he acted exactly like a menial servant. To the poor, he was like a father, and to his equals, he was attached like a sympathetic brother. And he considered his teachers, spiritual masters, and older god brothers to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was completely free from unnatural pride that might have arisen from his good education, riches, beauty, aristocracy, and so on. Very important lessons here. Narad Muni is glorifying Prahlad. Of course, his main quality is that he's totally attached to the Lord spontaneously. But we see that when one is attached to the Lord, his behavior changes, his character changes, and the way he deals with every type of person changes. It's not like he's only nice in the temple room in front of the deities or when he's doing service. He's nice all the time to everyone. That's the nature of a pure devotee, something we need to aspire to. I think maybe we'll have to stop there. There's so much nectar in these verses, but also if you want to read, you can read from Canto 7, Chapter 4. That's where these verses are spoken towards the end of Chapter 4, from text 30 onwards, 30 to 40, 31 to 42, I think it is, where these verses are spoken, where other qualities are described of Prahlad Maharaj. Thank you very much. I think we'll stop there. Are there any comments or questions? No breakfast to rush to.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for a wonderful class. You close to the end, you mentioned how if a devotee is dear to Krishna, then Krishna takes everything away. In the case of Sri Prahlad Maharaj, he gives him, a whole kingdom. Is it possible that in the case of devotees like Prahlad and Dhruva Maharaj, that to them, because they do not desire anything, so it is actually almost the opposite of what their mood. So is it that Krishna just grants you the opposite in order for you to be purified or something like that?
Well, in the Bhagavatam, when Lord Nrsimha offered that boon, he also offered the protection. He offered that protection that I'll offer you this, but I'll also protect you from the effects of it. So Lord Nrsimha somehow seemed very fixed. I don't know if it was necessarily the opposite that you offer and therefore the Lord does it, but the Lord wanted him to be there. And I think in this case at least, the Lord detected his desire to help everyone else, like how he helped his friends in the school, and his desire to deliver others. So if he just offered him liberation and took him away, he won't get to enact that desire. So I understood it. I didn't read it anyway, but I understood that was the desire the Lord was reciprocating within offering him that benediction. But the Lord simultaneously offered the protection at the same time, that you won't be affected by this. So the Lord is very aware that even a great devotee can be affected, and reassured him. And the devotee, of course, although they're so elevated, they also act in fear of the material nature. Prabhupada had that famous saying that where he said, I won't fall down, and then he was praying to the deities that he won't fall down, because that's just how the devotee is. So even Prahlad Maharaj, even when he's talking to Lord Shiva, when he's countering his arguments, one of the things he says is that I've become affected. But the Lord guaranteed him he wouldn't. But he says and he feels he's become affected by false ego and all these material things. Just his mood, of course, of humility. But so that's how he used his thing. In the case of Dhruva Maharaj, I'm not sure. Well, he had the desire for the greater kingdom, and the Lord rewarded him. But of course he lost the desire. But in a sense, all pure devotees would have no desire. If the rule was that they get the opposite of what not wanting, then every devotee would have a kingdom also. So I don't know if that's a general principle, but at least in these cases, the Lord gave that. Because I would assume any pure devotee would have no desire for anything material. That's what a pure devotee would be. And earlier on in the Bhagavatam, it also states that no one can glorify the Lord except a pure devotee. No one can properly glorify the Lord, because only one who's lost thirst for material enjoyment can actually glorify the Lord. So that's the pure devotee. He's lost thirst for material enjoyment. So therefore, any pure devotee, they don't have any inclination for the material world. So that would be the general principle, I would think. Thank you for that question, Prabhu. Hope that
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.